streets are all empty and the stores are all closed. I've got a rip in my shirt and I'm trying to get home. The money I had was a fool's time to shine, and by the whole bar around just before closing time. That ain't good tale I have that's worth being told. Starting with something in silver or gold. There are some things that can't be undone. It all happened once upon a bottle of rum. It all happened once upon a bottle of rum. I sailed off to find what I just hadn't found. Living my life in my little hometown. So I traveled the world singing songs to get by. Fell in love by the dozens on those hot island nights. It ain't good till I have that's worth being told. Starting with something in silver or gold. There are some things that can't be undone. It all happened once upon a bottle of rum. It all happened once upon a bottle of rum. And I'm old and gray with my kids by my side. And they ask me about all the times of my life. I'll smile and I'll say that the things that I've done all happened once upon a bottle of rum. All happened once upon a bottle of rum. It's 12:01. I don't get up with the sun anymore. Since you've been gone, I haven't had a reason to anymore. See, when I call all the time and you're tired of the same old lines, you don't think it's funny anymore. On every single word I said. Yeah, you used to stand behind every dream I had. When my dreams turned into memories, you turned and walked away. Oh, and left me with no other way to be.
You're listening to the Jams and Coffee Morning Show with your host, Brad Brock.
Well, good morning, Jammers. Welcome to the Jams and Coffee Morning Show. Just getting adjusted here from last night. Had quite a bit of adjustments to make there with that crew from the Jams and Cocktails podcast last night, but I'm here and I've made it, and I thank you for joining me this morning here on Jams and Coffee over on YouTube or Facebook, or listening in on JNC Radio via the LIVE365 app, free from your favorite app store. It is Thursday morning here. Always a rough one after the Jams and Cocktails podcast on Wednesday night. But I'm here. I made it. Don't think I didn't debate. Coming up with some excuse today. Things like this happen when you invite the rum makers and the music makers into the house under the same roof. But I do appreciate everybody that tuned in with us last night. And I've made it here this morning. Another cold one here on the Treasure Coast. This morning the temperatures are in the 50s and low 60s across the area, with a few showers off the coast. It did roll through here a little dark and stormy looking this morning. Some of those showers could swing in from offshore and impact our coastal communities throughout the day. This afternoon, the highs are going to be in the mid to upper 70s with a mix of sun and clouds and low humidity, which is a nice... That's what I equate to fake fall here in Florida, when the humidity dies down for a few days. It's really quite a nice change. Tomorrow, the morning lows are going to be in the low to mid 60s, and the afternoon highs will be in the upper 70s and low 80s. Warming up just a bit tomorrow, and that'll be under mostly sunny skies. So not too shabby. Philip just in here with his Jams and Coffee irrelevant weather report up in Tennessee. So they woke up to a frosty 26 degrees up there with the highs into the upper 60s. Clear and sunny, warming into the weekend. And next rain chance is looking like Tuesday. Hey, you know, better to have a rain chance on the horizon than no rain at all. I'm going to dump some water into the mighty Mississippi. Would be good. Good. We have some national days today. Some fun ones. Some I might have to get down on this morning to get my soul right to get on through the day. It is, let's see, what do we got here? It's a National Brandied Fruit Day. Each year on the 20th of October, we celebrate the delicious food holiday known as National Brandied Fruit Day. Brandied fruit first became popular around the Victorian era. During this time, people discovered brandy added to fruit easily helped preserve it. Incidentally, the process also preserved the flavor of freshly harvested fruit crops, while also creating a delicious dessert for adults. You know, because you don't want to give brandied fruit to children, I suppose. It's created, of course, by soaking sweet, fresh fruit in brandy, sugar, and spices. After the initial preparation, the fruit will sit for nearly 30 days. Then it's ready to top desserts, pies, and cakes. Interestingly, brandied fruit is used as a starter for friendship cake. I didn't even know that was a thing. Similar to the concept of a starter for sourdough bread, friendship cake takes time to prepare. However, once you've completed the process, you're sure to enjoy one of the most delicious treats ever. There you go. National Brandied Fruit Day. You want to work for your food there. All right, what else do we have going on? It's National Youth Confidence Day. Also today, building a framework of positive role models is vital to developing reasonable, confident young adults. Incidentally, National Youth Confidence Day on October 20th encourages us to connect and inspire today's youth for tomorrow's success. I don't encourage the youth to watch the Jams and Cocktails podcast, as I don't think that's a good role model situation for anyone, really, any of any age. But it is fun. It's where are we? Where I don't even know where we are. Oh yes, and most importantly, it's National Chicken and Waffles Day, and I don't know about you, but I would be hard pressed to find a combination that goes together as well as chicken and waffles. What a delicious, delectable pairing. Savory and sweet collide for a soulful celebration of flavor on October 20th as we celebrate National Chicken and Waffles Day. That's right. Imagine a world where ingredients of every spice and spirit find their way into the honeycombs of thick and crispy waffles. One day has arrived from L.A. to New York City. This quintessential meal of the rural South made a slow migration to the urban communities to the north and west. But as odd as it seems, chicken and waffles have been around for more than 150 years. And while no one knows who first put chicken and waffles on the same plate together, we do know the meal was a staple of both African-American cooks and the Pennsylvania Dutch. That's an interesting pairing in all of its own. Part breakfast, part supper. Everyone can enjoy chicken and waffles any time of day. Now, the meal also serves up some hearty combinations. Our only limit is our imaginations. That's right. Not only does hashtag Chicken and Waffles Day bring together two food groups, but it also unites others. For example, friends and family, communities and organizations, and multiple generations. Yes, we love chicken and waffles. Good morning, Jordan. Jordan checking in there. Being the wonderful slacker that she is today. Love you. I'm hoping that the chicken and waffle story gets her interested in perhaps procuring some chicken and waffles today. But we'll see. We shall see. Let's see. Is there anything else? Anything else today? It's National Get to Know Your Customers Day. Those of you that are in sales of some sort or in the service industry, get to know your customer. It reminds businesses to reach out to patrons and get to know them a little bit better. It's observed annually on the third Thursday of each quarter. Oh, this happens all the time. That's good. Seems pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of weirdo days today. It's also National Get Smart About Credit Day. This is probably some advice that I could use for sure. National Get Smart About Credit Day on the third Thursday in October annually promotes learning about good credit. It's a national campaign where volunteer bankers help counsel young people on responsible credit habits. That's important. The importance of sound financial management is something that and should be taught at a young age. Learning healthy credit habits can be one of the most valuable lessons a young person can learn. I wish that I had taken heed to some of those lessons when I was younger. Boy, what a climb to get out of that. But I prevailed. And you can too. So get smart about credit today on the National Day. That's our National Days. Obviously, if I've forgotten anything or if there's a National Day that I forgot to mention, be sure to throw it in the chats and comments, or you can give me a call and harass me on the phone at 772-888-1596. What else is going on out there? There really wasn't a whole lot, you guys. And I'm not going to lie. I'm riding a bit of the struggle bus this morning. It was a relatively late night. And even later, Jordan got home pretty late from her outing last evening. And I'm glad that she made it home safely. What are we going to talk about today? I have just a few stories. There really wasn't a whole lot of news that I was interested in, but we're going to talk about brains. That's us. We're going to talk about brains. We're going to talk about the Black Death. How it's still affecting the human immune system. And finally today we'll have a little bit of toilet talk. But we'll dive right into the first story here. Talk about brains. And I know that this is a burning question that all of you ask yourselves as you wake up each morning. Wipe the sleep from your eyes. Get a nice big stretch. Oh, yeah. Do the little morning shuffle to the bathroom or the ensuite of your master suite. Take a nice long look in the mirror, deep into your own eyes, and you ask, will brain transplants ever be possible? Well, I don't have the answers for you, but I do have an interesting story and a brief history on brain transplanting and that concept. So, the truth is, organ transplantation has come a long way. It's now possible to transplant not just hearts and livers, but functioning uteruses, hands, and even faces now. But will it ever be possible to transplant a brain? Well, the simple answer is maybe. That's a long, long way from happening. It's not really clear that it would even be ethical, even if it were possible. After all, a brain transplant is really a body transplant. Raising the question, is it right to save one person's life with a full donor body, or should that donor's organs go to multiple people, potentially saving many lives at once? But we're not here to be the ethics committee. So ethics aside, the brain is a delicate organ, and the spinal cord, which connects to the brain, does not recover well after being cut. As many of you know, you don't have to be a doctor to know that once the spinal cord is severed, most people never regain the ability to control their extremities, which is, that's a huge obstacle to overcome here. While there have been animal experiments involving transplanted heads, most animals that have been subjected to these experiments died within hours or days. The longest lived have made it only a few months, which is a pretty big feat in and of itself. Well, a few researchers have made headlines by claiming head transplants in humans are just around the corner. The hurdles are massive. Dr. Frederick Meyer, a neurosurgeon at the Mayo Clinic, said, I don't think any serious scientist considers any of that truthful or scientific. So, maybe. I'm going to give you a brief history of head transplants. So scientists have not attempted to transplant an isolated brain into any animal. A living brain is soft and squishy, and it's too easily damaged to attempt to scoop it out and plop it into another head. Trying to transplant an isolated brain would also entail reconnecting numerous delicate cranial nerves, which would be challenging. And the brain transplants that have been attempted are really head transplants. The first attempt occurred all the way back, can you believe this, in 1909. When scientists Alex Carrel and Charles Guthrie transplanted a dog's head onto another dog, creating kind of a Cerberus-like animal, with the two heads doing that thing. And that animal lived for just a few hours. But it wasn't a success exactly. But Carrel and Guthrie's work did contribute to medical science. Carrel was later awarded the Nobel Prize for their work on blood vessel reattachment, a technique that would, of course, later lead to the possibility of organ transplantation and limb reattachment. So, very important stuff. Anybody out there ever had a limb replaced or, cut your finger off and they put it back on? That's the work of those guys. coming into play. So, where am I at here? In 1954, moving forward just a few years, Soviet scientist Vladimir Demikov, might know that name, experimented with grafting dogs' upper bodies to other dogs. Oh, these poor dogs, man. The two-headed animals mostly lasted a few days, with one surviving up to 29 days. That's according to a 2016 review article in the Journal of History of Neurosurgery. The grafted on heads were functional, doing things like lapping up water and responding to visual stimuli, but immune rejection ultimately led to the dogs' deaths. In the 60s and 70s, an American neurosurgeon named Robert White took the head transplant concept just a step further. Using rhesus monkeys, he experimented with transplanting heads only, not full upper bodies, and did the transplants head for head, rather than grafting an extra head onto a full body. The transplanted monkeys could chew and swallow food and track objects with their eyes. They were, however, quadriplegic because their spinal cords had been severed and could no longer send nerve signals to their bodies. And they also died within about 36 hours due to troubles with blood flow. So, I just went over a few of the problems with head transplant, but this is the major problem with head transplants. So today it's often possible to prevent the immune rejection, which was a major problem with these earlier scientific tests. And you could do that with a cocktail of cutting-edge drugs, enabling even highly immune cell-rich tissues like skin to last decades following a transplant. Scientists have also made big strides in vessel reattachment and theoretically keeping the blood supply to the brain flowing during a head transplant surgery. In 2015, researcher, these names. Mr. Wren. Dr. Wren, I don't know, we'll call him Dr. Wren, of the Harvard Medical University in China, experimented with mice and reported a method of cutting just one of the jugular veins in the neck and one of the carotid arteries to connect a second mouse head to the first mouse body, leaving the other jugular carotid to feed the original head. But major problems remain. A big issue is that transplanting a head requires slicing and reattaching the spinal cord. Though Wren and his team have found ways to slice the spinal cord low enough in mice to enable the transplanted animals to breathe without a ventilator, there's no good evidence in humans that the spinal cord could heal. Some researchers are exploring nanomaterials and specialized polymers for spinal cord repair, but those methods have only been tested in animals with different nervous systems and physiology from humans. Preventing the brain from losing oxygen during and after surgery would also be harder in humans than it is in mice, simply due to the size and logistics of moving around a human body versus a mouse body. Obviously, there's little room for error. Brain cells begin to die within 5 minutes of losing oxygen, according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. Finally, according to the History of Neurosurgery Review, there's no research at all on how to control pain after a head transplant. This isn't just the pain that would result from being essentially beheaded. It would also be central neuropathic pain, a type of chronic pain that occurs often after damage to the spinal cord or brain. This type of pain is notoriously difficult to treat because you can't pinpoint it. It's not a physical thing. It exists only in the brain. And so for all of these reasons, the Ethico-Legal Committee of the European Association of Neurological Societies declared head transplantation in humans unethical back in 2016. The committee has no legal power to stop head transplants from being performed, but produces professional guidelines for neurosurgery practice. They go on to say the risks involved for the patient undergoing a head transplant are enormous, including the risk of death. There's no solid evidence base for all steps of the procedure. For some, there's even lack of proof of concept. So it's an interesting thing to ponder but wildly unlikely that we'll get to a place where you can take the head off of someone and put it on another body, Frankenstein style, and be able to reattach things in such a way that the new body will function flawlessly. And morbid feelings aside, it would likely be better to just die than to go through whatever that kind of adjustment would be. You won't find me saying, "Oh, I need to live so bad, put my head on another body." Oh, that sounds terrible. Unless that body was like, a tall, beautiful model body. That would, ripped abs. Then maybe we'll give it a shot. I don't know. Let me know what you think. What do you think about it? Would you, if it was somehow feasible, you've jumped 300 years into the future, would you take an opportunity to, say something catastrophic happened to your body, or you became something happened to your body and they could move your head to another donor body and you can carry on as if nothing happened? Would you do it? Let me know. I wouldn't. I'd be like, no, 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 sweet angel of death, take me now. All right. Taking a peek here at the comments and such. And do a little musical break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Black Death. That's right. The Black Death, the most devastating plague outbreak in human history. And we're going to talk about it because it's still affecting descendants of those people even today. You're listening to Jams and Coffee here in the morning. I appreciate that. Here's one from Deal James. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
My mama said, baby, you like to be alone, but then I said, you know how I love your little lessons. My daddy said, nothing wrong with being on solo, but don't forget, he had to fight water with affection. Everybody wants someone to love. 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 Somebody to love, salt and pepper.
All right, we're back here, Jams and Coffee in the morning. That was Deal James with Lemon Water. Before we get into the Black Death story here, just want to do a little recap of the show last night, the Jams and Cocktails podcast. Again, I appreciate any of those who tuned in with us and hung out with us. We, of course, on the show with John McDonald, a award-nominated trop rocker. We talked about his brand new album, Islandology. Not brand new. It's been out for a little over a year now, but really good stuff. Great songwriting on this record. Of course, it's got the track Code Rum on there, which is what we were doing. We were premiering the music video for Code Rum, and it was a great time. Johnny Ringo from the Code Rum Company was in the studio with us. You know, that's always a good time. John got up and performed a couple tunes live for us, which was lovely. Miss Donna was here, of course, John's better half there, and Ellie was taking over for Jordan, and really Derek. Those two chuckleheads were off last night doing whatever it is they do in their lives outside of podcast. But yeah, so Ellie was holding down the fort with me. Thankful for her. But yeah, it was a great show. We talked to Chip Bell. That was escapism author, fiction of fiction. Of course, he developed the character Jake Sullivan, international man of mystery, I suppose. But yeah, so we talked with him on the phone and his collection of books. We also talked with Brian Burns of Sail and Song Promotions and some of the events that they've all got going on. We even heard from Gary Haas, the Mad Hatter, for those of you on the Treasure and Space Coast, probably the Space Coast more so. Gary is known as the Mad Hatter, and he puts together these wonderful themed pub crawls and other events up in that Space Coast area. And so we got to chat with him for a little bit. And he'll be coming down to the Keys with us next weekend to party for Fantasy Fest, which is great. Always a good time hanging out with Gary. And so it was just a wonderful show. We had such a great time and partook, if that's how you say it, in quite a few beverages. And it was a late night. And this is an early morning. But it was a great show. Of course, the Forever upload will come up this afternoon, and this afternoon it'll also be available to listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts. So look out for that in this afternoon, the Jams and Cocktails podcast. The Black Death. This is something that killed half of medieval Europe's population in the space of 7 years back in the 14th century. Shifting the course of human history. But what about the survivors of what remains the single greatest mortality event ever recorded? Well, new research published just yesterday in the journal Nature suggests it was more than luck that determined who lived and who died. Some of this may sound familiar to you. Analysis of centuries-old DNA from both victims and survivors of the Black Death have identified key genetic differences that helped people survive the plague. According to a study published in the journal Nature, as mentioned, these genetic differences continue to shape human immune systems to this day, with genes that once conferred protection against the plague now linked to a greater vulnerability to autoimmune diseases such as Crohn's and rheumatoid arthritis. Sounds like a give and take. The study co-author Luis Barrero, that's what we're going with. He's a professor of genetic medicine at the University of Chicago. He said, "We are the descendants of those that survived past pandemics, and understanding the evolutionary mechanisms that contributed to our survival is not only important from a scientific viewpoint, it can also inform on the mechanisms and genetic determinants of present-day susceptibility to disease." So, we're going to talk about plague pit specimens. The 7-year study involved the extraction of DNA isolated from 3 different groups of skeletal remains unearthed in London, Denmark, London and Denmark. Plague victims, those who died before the Black Death and those who died between 10 and 100 years after the plague struck. More than 300 samples came from London, a city hit particularly hard during the plague, including from individuals buried in the East Smithfield plague pits, used for mass burials at the height of the outbreak. Another 198 samples were taken from human remains buried in 5 locations in Denmark. DNA was extracted from dentine in the roots of the individual's teeth, and researchers were also able to check for the presence of Yersinia pestis, which is the bacterium that caused the plague. They then searched for signs of genetic adaptation to the disease. Co-author Hendrik Poinar, a professor of anthropology at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, said it's a long process, but in the end, you have the sequence of those genes for those people from before, during, and after the plague, and you ask, do the genes one population carried look different than the ones another population carried? Interesting question. A team pinpointed a variant of one particular gene, known as ERAP2, that appeared to have a strong association with the plague. Before the Black Death, the variant of ERAP2 found to be protective of the plague, and it was found in about 40% of individuals included in the London study. After the Black Death, it was 50%. In Denmark, the percentile disparity was a starker, changed from about 45% of samples buried before the plague to 70% buried afterwards. The team don't yet know exactly why this variant conferred protection, but their lab experiments in cultured cells indicated that in people with the ERAP2 variant, an immune cell known as macrophage provoked a very different response to Yersinia pestis. Barrero explained that. He said, macrophages from individuals with the variant were better able to kill the bacteria in lab experience than macrophages from individuals lacking it. I said we don't know if it still protects against the plague, given that the number of cases in present-day populations is very low, but we speculated that it should. It's also likely that the variant is beneficial against other pathogens, although this wasn't part of the research. So what is the price of immunity? Well, of course, there's a downside to the variant, and it's that it's been linked to greater susceptibility to autoimmune disorders, such as Crohn's disease, where the immune system becomes overactive. Barrero said this suggests that populations that survived the Black Death paid a price, which is to have an immune system that increases our susceptibility to react against ourselves. He said that it's unlikely that the COVID-19 outbreak would shape our immune systems in a similar way, largely because the disease predominantly kills people after their reproductive age, meaning it's unlikely genes that confer protection would be passed on to the next generation. This change in human genetic makeup occurring in a matter of decades is also a rare example of rapid natural selection, said David Enard, a professor in the University of Arizona's Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. He was not involved in the research, but had something to say, as most people do. The narrow time window from which samples were taken and the large number of samples analyzed are selling points of the study, he said in a commentary published alongside the study, allowing the authors to accurately date natural selection. Even though evolutionary biologists had previously wondered about the possibility of natural selection during the Black Death, proper investigation was not possible without this precise dating of many samples. So, there you go. We are, many of us who have descendants from Europe. If you have Crohn's disease or rheumatoid arthritis, it's possible that your ancestors were infected by the Black Death and survived. Interesting stuff. Here's something that's not quite as interesting. In fact, it's a damn shame. This is where we talk a little bit about toilet talk. That's what this segment's called this morning. And what toilet are we talking about? Only Japan's oldest toilet. And, of course, because humans are generally just out of their minds these days and do not pay attention anymore to anything. Of course, it was damaged. This priceless historic artifact, Japan's oldest toilet, damaged by a driver who accidentally put their car in reverse and smashed through the front doors. What's worse is this person is a conservationist working on the site. Idiot. A building believed to house the oldest toilet in Japan faced its biggest threat in centuries on Monday when a conservation worker accidentally reversed his car into it, according to the local officials. Mindless people, man. Kodu Uno, spokesperson for the Tofukuji Temple in Kyoto, said the doors of the approximately 600-year-old wooden communal toilet were damaged in the incident. A photo of the aftermath showed splintered pieces of wood strewn about in the former ancient capital where the toilet was built at the temple in the first half of the Muromachi period, which is from 1336 to 1573. The toilet is a historical artifact, so naturally we were very sad when it was damaged, Uno said. The 100-person toilet got its nickname because more than 100 trainee monks used it up until the start of the Meiji era, around 1868, but it could actually only be used by up to 40 people at a time. Each side of the privy is lined with around 20 holes. The toilet, which has been closed to the public for over a century, was named an important cultural property by the Japanese government in 1902. According to Uno, it's the oldest latrine left standing at a Zen Buddhist temple in Japan. Uno said the temple management were discussing the best way to restore the damaged doors, which measured 2.5 meters tall and just a bit wider than that. Said we were thankful that nobody was injured and that we can repair the doors of the toilet. Now, there is some happiness in this misfortune. I guess the moral of that story is, folks, when you get into your car, and this is a lesson for all of us, me included, when we get into our cars, understand that you're operating a machine that could crash through walls and kill people. Just, so while you're there messing around on the radio trying to find that perfect song and flipping through your phone and, reading your texts and your tweets while operating a machine that can literally destroy everything in its path. Just remember, it's a huge responsibility to be able to drive your car and do it safely. So, take your cell phone, throw it straight out the window, and pay attention to what you're doing. And don't back into any toilets. That would be nice. Save the turlets. That's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming to it. Oh, we got some celebrity birthdays. I'm going to hit you with our top 10, and then I'm going to send you on your way. I'll get this day going. Snoop Dogg. D-O-double-G, turning 51 years old today. Of course, the legendary rapper. He's sold over 30 million records. His debut album, Doggy Style, sold nearly 1 million copies the week of its release. Known for his laid-back persona and his advocacy for the recreational use of marijuana. Naturally. Vice President Kamala Harris turning 58 years old today. John Krasinski turning 43 years old today. Of course, best known for his role as Jim Halpert on The Office. He's also played in several films, including the 2018 horror film A Quiet Place. Actor and screenwriter William Zabka, for all you Cobra Kai fans, turning 57 years old today. He's, of course, known for his role in Karate Kid and now Cobra Kai. He was actually nominated for an Academy Award after co-producing the 2004 film Most. Turning just a baby 33-year-old today, 33 years today. The UK singer, best known for her feature on the 2014 Clean Bandit single, Rather Be, one of my favorite songs. I love it. We're talking about Jess Glynn, turning 33 years old today. She's also known for her solo singles like Right Here. Viggo Mortensen, turning 64 years old today. Of course, best known for his portrayal of Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor for his role in the 2016 film Captain Fantastic. Turning 64. Birthday in heaven, I suppose, is the best way to put that. Tom Petty would be celebrating his 72nd birthday today. Of course, the frontman for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and known for hit tracks like Free Fallin' and Mary Jane's Last Dance. He sadly passed away in 2017 at 66 years old. So, Tom Petty, birthday today as well. Happy birthday to our celebrities. What else do we got going on? Oh, yes. Keeping with our tradition, our spooky top 10 here. Let me pull it up. This is a fun one. I promise it's quick. Maybe. Don't listen to my promises. They're terrible. All right. People go to the mall. Some people go to the malls. Do people still go to the mall? I don't know. I haven't been to a mall in eons, it feels. But I digress. People go to the mall to shop, eat, or enjoy its air conditioning. But nobody goes shopping to get scared. Fortunately, however, there are a handful of malls that feel haunted to the patrons and employees who frequent them. Want to know which ones they are and why they're considered creepy? Well, strap yourselves in as we take a tour of the 10 most haunted malls in the world. Visit any of these 10 haunted malls and have a beautiful shopping adventure with some loitering ghosts in today's JNC Top 10. Yes, all right. We're going to kick it off here at the Cherryvale Mall in Rockford, Illinois. The ghosts in Cherryvale Mall in Rockford, Illinois are quite naughty. Employees often complain of feeling like they're being watched at night while closing down the stores. When they reopen the next day, many of the products are usually in disarray. Rockford's prime shopping destination is almost 50 years old. It has several large anchor stores, including Macy's and JCPenney, with numerous other smaller stores and family entertainment centers. Cherryvale also hosts various events and becomes really lively during Halloween for obvious reasons. Here's an important tip when shopping at Cherryvale. Don't go to the bathroom alone. Some people have reported using the restroom and having an unknown force hold the bathroom door shut. Now that would just be pee in your pants scary. Number 9 on our list, Alabang, is the business district in the city of Muntinlupa. Yes, in the Philippines. In the 1990s, the sprawling district transformed its skyline with large buildings in favor of business and commerce. Part of that transformation entailed building over a cemetery. Always a great idea, guys. In its place stands Star Mall Alabang, considered one of the scariest haunted places in Metro Manila. According to lore, the spirits became enraged that their place of rest was turned into a source of loud entertainment for many Filipinos. Can you blame them? One of the funniest or scariest stories is about a couple who was laughing loudly with the rest of the theater goers while watching a film. As the credits rolled and the couple got up to leave, they were startled to realize they were the only two inside. Apparently, Star Mall Alabang is like the Sixth Sense in real life. Some will see dead people walking around just like real people. Scary, scary. Number 8 on our list, the Diamond Center in Anchorage. Ghosts don't go boo at people. No. They're far too refined for that. Instead, you'll hear drums and flute music. Now, that's the kind of haunting people, particularly music lovers, will surely enjoy. Diamond Center stands on an ancient burial ground, here we go again, of Native Alaskans. It was built in the 1970s. Construction workers found a few burial sites. Since there weren't that many, development continued until the mall opened in 1977. It's now one of Alaska's most important landmarks. However, some of the mall goers claim that the Native Alaskans are haunting Diamond Center's hallways. Many claim to have seen Native Americans wandering inside the mall and in their native clothing. Some people also say that they've heard drums and flutes playing. Sounds fun, right? Well, here's the scary part. Some say they've seen transparent wolves milling about. Now that should make anyone howl in fear. I like this. I need to find out who wrote this. I like their style. It works with my mojo. Next on our list here at number 7, we're going to the Yogia department store in Jakarta, Indonesia. Imagine going to work in a mall and seeing the charred toes of children on the floor. Well, if you're a janitor from Yoga department store, you'll simply sweep them up and throw them away. It's a common occurrence, after all. Some have it a tad easier, just complaints of noises like crashing tables and shattered glass. Well, they're just noises. The experience is no less eerie. You'll be even more creeped out when you hear the history of the Yoga department store. In 1998, the 1998 Asian financial crisis prompted deadly riots in Indonesia. That killed more than 1,000 people. Some of these people were trapped in the mall where Yoga now stands. Caught fire, burning them alive. There were rumors that the fire that destroyed the mall was intentional. In the year 2000, Yoga was erected in its place. Many believe those who perished in the fire are still walking around its hallways looking for justice. Spooky, 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 spooky. Number 6 on our list, our spooky list today. We go to Arcadia, California, the Westfield Santa Anita. A boy dressed in 1930s attire is often seen wandering around the Westfield Santa Anita Mall in California. Though many have tried calling out to him, he's quite shy and usually runs away when discovered. The creepy thing is his feet don't touch the ground, and he becomes transparent, as ghosts often do. In case you're interested in seeing him, he's usually loitering around the escalators, and sometimes he goes inside the stores, too. Westfield Santa Anita will soon undergo a change in management as its French owners are planning to sell the mall. Hopefully the new owners won't destroy the store and render the boy homeless. Number 5 on our list, Plaza Singapura. As you imagine, it's probably in Singapore. Located along the famous Orchard Road, Plaza Singapura is one of the most famous malls in Singapore, and also among the oldest. Many believe it's haunted, especially the toilets on the 7th floor. Very particular. According to online forums, people often see a little girl in the restroom. Sometimes she would be in the cinema. Many believe she's the ghost of an aborted child, since the old Plaza Singapura used to house an abortion clinic on the 7th floor of the mall. The mall has since undergone significant renovations between 1997 and 1999. Oh, it's weird to think of babies growing up to haunt a place. It's probably just an attempt to give the lonesome child a backstory. Yes, it's quite a stretch to connect those two. Number 4 on our list, going to Pennsylvania. Anybody go to the Poconos in the Pennsylvania, you can check this one out. Mount Pocono Mall. For some reason, Kmart seems to have a fine collection of ghosts on its premises. So let's start with the one in Mount Pocono Mall. Apparently, nighttime employees usually see a lady in white just milling about. The ghostly lady must have been feeling pretty friendly because it called out to one of the mall employees twice, and it did so using the person's name. From time to time, feminine products were also known to fall from the shelves. The Mount Pocono branch is now closed. Speaking of another closed Kmart, New York's Astor Place Kmart announced its closure last year. In response, tributes, which included ghost stories, started pouring in. One person said that shopping there made them think of the zombie apocalypse. It's not really that scary, is it? Well, perhaps the final creepy Kmart story will take the cake. Kmart number 7625 in Los Angeles was once a Zodi's store, which was reportedly where a love triangle turned into a gruesome double homicide and suicide. According to the stories, a couple used to work at Zodi's. One night, the man caught his girlfriend in a compromising situation with a fellow male employee. His anger got the best of him. So he got a box cutter and killed his girlfriend and her paramour. Then he slashed his wrist with the same cutter. After the crime, employees would often hear screaming in the stockroom. Sometimes they would see a girl running in the store. The scariest tale was when an employee suffered a 7-inch laceration on his chest from a knife that appeared out of nowhere. And they say ghosts can never harm the living. Number 3 on our list, our spooky list. The Tiring Building in Cairo, Egypt, is one of Egypt's first department stores. It's still standing in Cairo, but it's no longer the bustling commercial establishment it used to be. The change was part of Ataba Square's natural progression, making Cairo's business district a historical and cultural hub. Ataba Square is now the city's largest marketplace, with Tiring's many spaces used as storage places for vendors' goods. But there's one place vendors would never set foot in, and that's the attic. According to unconfirmed rumors, it used to be an execution chamber. The attic has remained untouched for decades and is sealed with several chains and locks. People are afraid that opening it will set the place's many ghosts free. Scary, scary, scary. Number 2 on our list is Harrisburg Mall in East Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, spooky place. It's the second Pennsylvania mall on the list here, which begs the question, why is Pennsylvania so haunted? Well, incidentally, this is also the top question when you do a Google search about the state. Many say it's because the Keystone State was one of the locations of the Civil War, which means hundreds, maybe even thousands of soldiers perished there and are now haunting the living. But back to Harrisburg Mall. It's not a soldier that's been reportedly haunting people, or at least there have been no indications that it was a soldier. According to nighttime security guards of the mall, a person would watch them through the glass doors when the J.C. Penney store would close. They always had a spooky feeling when it happened. Fortunately, the apparition stopped when Boscov's took over the store. Perhaps the ghost was a J.C. Penney loyalist. We may never know. And finally, number 1 on our list here from Glasgow, Scotland, the Silverburn Shopping Centre. The ghostly apparition is based on one person's account. It's easy to dismiss as a figment of one's imagination. However, in the case of Silverburn Shopping Center, multiple people have seen a woman in black period clothing hovering in different parts of the mall. You read that right. Hovering, meaning her feet were not on the floor, spooking many of the mall goers. The multiple sightings alarmed Silverburn's management enough that they called Glasgow Paranormal Investigations. The city has their own paranormal investigation. Cool. The investigators said that the woman's spirit may have been disturbed when the mall was built or when the new cinema was developed, so it was normal for the spirits to haunt their new surroundings. Many people enjoy going to the mall. Unfortunately, it seems so do ghosts. It's hard to determine if ghosts are real since not everybody sees them and they can't tell their own stories. What's important to note is that most of the stories, ghosts are harmless. They may spook you, but they will not hurt you. As for the Zodi's slashing incident, there's no solid proof that the ghost of the jilted boyfriend was responsible for the injury. So get out there and meet some ghosts, you crazy people. And that is the JNC Spooky Top 10. Woohoo! All right, you early bird crackpots. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm just going to hit you with some shameless plugs. Weather permitting, tonight I will be at the Manatee Island in Fort Pierce. The only Manatee Island now, since the one in Salerno closed down. I'll be there from 5:30 to 8:30 this evening, if all goes according to plan. So come and say hi. We'll happy hour show. The weather should be lovely. Maybe bring a light jacket. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Jams and Cocktail Podcast Network. You find links for that everywhere, including at jncpodcast.com. You find all of our socials there. You can listen to JNC Radio right from the website there and keep up with all the things that we're doing. Watch this show, watch the podcasts. All that stuff happens right there at jncpodcast.com, the epicenter. Check out the Live365 Radio App. It's completely free, and it's loaded not just with JNC Radio, but tons of, what's the word I'm looking for? Tons of radio stations programmed by real independent broadcasters. So if JNC's not your jam, which I hope it is, you could find something on the app. Just go support that app, Live365. It's a cool app to have on your phone. Nothing to sign up for, totally free. So check that out. Check out Paul's live stream tonight. Paul Robertson from the Drums and Rums podcast. His live stream is on tonight, 8 p.m. on YouTube. You can find a link for it on jncpodcast.com. You can get in there as well. It's his biggest happy hour and a half hour, and it's always a good time. So you got to get there early because it does not last very long. Sometimes it goes a little over. Sometimes it's not. But yes, go and check out Paul's latest podcast episode, Drums and Rums podcast episode, and then you can talk about it with him on his live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Biggest happy hour and a half hour. Be sure to support our friends at the Code Rum, Hop Life Brewing, the Sneaky Tiki in downtown Stewart. Support those who support us and support local whenever you can. And that does it for me on my shameless plugs. The only other plug I have is get ready for next Wednesday's JNC Podcast Halloween Spooktacular. It's our 3rd annual Halloween party live stream that we'll be doing. And we always have such a good time. We have some really fun stuff planned for you this year. So check that out. I'll keep you posted about it. At any rate, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. on Jams and Coffee, broadcasting live from the legendary JNC Lounge. I'm Brad Brock. Cheers.
Tune in again tomorrow morning for the latest local buzz, national headlines, music news, and more on JNC in the Morning, right here on Facebook and YouTube.